What events transformed your life? This week, I chat with Jessica Joan Richards, a marketing specialist whose LinkedIn post went viral a few months ago when she decried body shaming and the weight brigade on LinkedIn. This is Jessica's defining moments. Hi, Jessie. Welcome to Defining Moments with Mama Talk Talk. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. When I thought about bringing you on, it was on the back of something really awesome that you did. And I'm really, really keen to tell everyone about it. I'm going to hold my horses first and ask you to just give an introduction of yourself to the Mama Talk Talk audience.
As hard as it is to believe, I am not a person with many words. So, hello everybody. Thank you so much to AB for having me. My name is Jessie, and really, I'm just an ordinary person who has a lot of love I really want to be spreading to everybody and positivity. So that's why I'm here today. And thank you so much, AB, for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you start with love and positivity because that's how our paths crossed. So I'm just going to tell everyone the story of how we got here. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I was scrolling through my LinkedIn post or my LinkedIn feed, and I saw a post that caused me to stop. And in that post, there was a woman who I didn't know, who was not in my circle, who said, I have never done this before. And that caught my attention right away. And I was like, okay, my interest is piqued. And so I went on to read the post, and it was a post from Jessie. And you were basically saying the thing you had never done before was post a picture of yourself on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us the rest of that story.
So it's really something that had been a big fear of mine for the longest time. I haven't even actually in the last 6 years, I haven't even really posted many personal photos of myself. And so LinkedIn was just another channel that I was hiding from essentially. And, I think that weight and self-limiting beliefs is all very personal to you, but sometimes if I'm not too harsh on myself, I admit that a lot of this insecurities I was feeling was because of the treatment I received from workplaces. And you think that how you're treated and how you feel at work is just about work, but actually it flows into much more of your life. And so yes, my post really was about trying to learn to love myself and hopefully telling other people to love themselves as well. So that's where it came from essentially. I would say a place of fear, but also hopefully a sense of empowerment too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you, in that post, talked about the fact that people had made you feel terrible about yourself, about your body, and therefore you did not want to post pictures of yourself. So share a little bit of that, and I will share the post so everyone can see what it is. But just talk about that and that feeling of I'm not good enough to put a picture out there of myself in this day and age of Instagram and Facebook and an overexposure of our lives. The idea that someone is not able or willing to post a picture of themselves because of bias is one that I think is worth exploring. So tell me a bit about some of what you experience.
I think so. First of all, I am half Filipino, but I do feel very much. I'm proud to be British too. My dad is English, but I am also Filipino, and I was very much born and raised to be Filipino, and so I'm very proud of that aspect of my life. the thing that's difficult, and actually it's something that I do want to talk more about, so this is probably the first time I'm really talking about it, is that, you know, Filipinos have a massive culture for belonging and welcoming and love and brightness. But the one thing that happens, maybe behind closed doors, but happens so often, is that people are very much judged and looked at based on their weight. And so in the UK, the average woman is about a size 10 or a size 12. And I found out today that clothes sizes do not actually convert internationally. So it's all different in all countries. But in the
Yes.
UK, a standard woman is size 12. But in the world of the Filipino culture, or actually, if I say modern society today, unless you're a size 8 or anything smaller, you're considered big. And it it instills that idea, even as a rational adult, that actually my body isn't attractive to be putting onto any platform. Now, when you bring into the conversation LinkedIn, which is meant to be professional, that's when it becomes really difficult. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not confident enough to post a picture of myself at a family dinner with my,
Yeah.
on Instagram. What more can I be posting on LinkedIn? Professionals, it's hard to be a professional if you don't fit into every single criteria that society has told you should fit into.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a bit about that because I think this is an interesting area. Oftentimes, and I'm an employment lawyer by background, so I pay a lot of attention to discrimination because I did that for almost 10 years. Oftentimes in the workplace, we focus on race and gender and LGBTQ and all of that. Now, the body is not something that we necessarily talk about, right? It's in there somewhere in the background, but no one is holding placards saying, accept everyone's body. So this is an interesting part because I want to hear from you what this has meant for you, because there is no classification. For example, I don't know how the UK does, but in the US, we do have protected classes under federal law and state law. Body weight is not one of them, right? So I'm keen to hear from you, just appearance. How does that affect you, or how did that affect you in your day-to-day engagement in the workplace?
So I have a few scenarios, and if I waffle on, please do let me know. It's interesting that you bring up the whole conversation about, race and gender, LGBTQ, and all of those things are so important, and we still need to be talking about them. But you are absolutely right that the body isn't talked about, because it's almost, I don't know what it is. I would be very interested to hear from your audience what it is that could make people, see body as a taboo, and that either we're scared to talk about it, or we're scared of people that don't confine to the norms. One standard size of body is attractive for men, one is attractive for women. From my experience, and I had this conversation with somebody recently and she said, I can relate to you as a curvy woman because we're bigger, it almost automatically means we have to try harder. And there has been occasions in my past, in my career, where, I like to be dressed up. I like to look very proper when I come into work. And because I'm not comfortable in my body, I'm not that I don't explore too much with clothing, and so it's already harder to feel presentable. And then you go into an office when you have somebody who's very much that stereotype that everybody says is the perfect type of human being, and they don't make as much of an effort, but yet they are seen to be a higher standard than you just because you have a few extra pounds that you're carrying. And I don't want to discount this from people who are also very petite naturally, who struggle to put on weight. It is a conversation all around.
I am so glad you said that part, because I have talked about it, the part about being petite and having a hard time gaining weight. And the fact that has been my struggle for the last 12 years. And what I've found is no one is interested in hearing that. And it's not something that I talk about often, but imagine sitting around with a circle of people. I found if you say, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, people tend to be sympathetic to that. If you say I'm trying to gain weight, you get a side eye like, okay, what are you trying to say?
I wish I had that problem, that situation. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So I find that interesting. But what I come back to and what I found so awesome about what you did was in the home circles, the personal circles, with our friends and so on, people can say really mean things, right? Because they think they're being helpful. What I found striking about your post was the fact that you felt in a work setting you couldn't be yourself. Because I was thinking, okay, so how does this manifest on a daily basis to you? This kind of fat shaming. How I'm curious to know what kind of things would people say or do that would make you feel like I don't belong, not because I'm Filipino or a woman, but because of my weight.
So, I mean, going back very quickly to the whole Filipino aspect of being a woman, forget that it's Filipino. Women or weight is seen as such a massive thing in society nowadays, and you are very much judged for having extra weight or not enough weight, and people always seem to be interested in whether you're eating too much or you're exercising too much, and it becomes that conversation. It almost is as if the moment you step into a room and you are very clearly overweight, it's like this conversation becomes open for everybody to think about what you should be doing to help yourself and to think about what you should be eating. In terms of how I feel personally, like I've been affected, it is things like, and a lot of it is mental things. So I want to share that side of things with you. For example, I have very attractive, very tall, slim sisters. All three of them are very much like that. I got the genes which was very short, a lot to love, and I'm proud of that in my own sense. But, it is that feeling of, am I the ugly sister? Am I the sister that stands beside these ladies who are very elegant and beautiful, stereotypically or typically beautiful, and am I less than them for being that way? And it's also this idea that even in a work setting, it's almost like this embarrassment of when we meet with clients, for example, in a client facing role, you will always find it's the more attractive, more eye candy looking employees that get put forward. So it's almost like you're held back straight away just because, not because of your talent or how hard you work or how much you know. It's almost as if it's just your weight that's the problem.
Yeah. And for you, how does that feel? Right? We've talked about the stuff that happens here, right?
I know. You want to know my heart.
Yeah.
It hurts so much. It's a really horrible thing. And if you allow me to be raw, and I'm already feeling myself emotional, it's a horrible feeling, because if you think about, weight is such a difficult conversation. And that's why I do want to have more of these conversations openly. But weight isn't just how big or small you are. It's also how it affects you in all the sense of the word. And I have been hiding for so long, until this interview, I have been hiding behind my weight, because I feel personally like I'm going to be judged for it anyway. So let them judge, and I will just be this, and I will accept life for how life is being given to me. But actually now, ever since that post, I'm like, actually no, because there are things that I am happy with, and there's things that I can change, and that is on my terms. I think being overweight and being overweight and big or too small or not having the right body for so long has held so many of us back. And I'm thinking from the career point of view, well, actually, it doesn't define how hard or passionate you are. It doesn't define
Yeah.
your heart.
Yeah.
Discrimination is such a big thing, and weight is one small thing about it. And I can only share that experience. But I have spent so many nights at the gym working out so hard because I just wanted to feel like people would accept me. And I've spent so many times dieting and being so unhappy and starving myself, all because I wanted this perfection that really, if I had loved myself a little bit more and worked on the stuff that made me
Mm.
unhappy, I probably would have been better off. And it's not when someone tells you on the internet or even to your face that you are fat and you're disgusting, because I have to tell you now, the outpouring of love I've received from people like you has been so amazing. But I don't want anybody to be under any illusion that it's not come with its fair share of difficulties. Yesterday I had an email from someone. I was feeling very good about myself. I did my hair, did my makeup,
Yeah.
felt good. And I got an email yesterday saying, and this is a personal email, saying, yes, you might be feeling confident, but at the heart of it, you're just a fat whale. And
Oh,
and
wow.
that's one of the more tamer ones. It hurt. The reality is that when you're being discriminated against, it hurts, and you don't want it to be personal, but it is really personal. But what I hope that people will start to take from, you having these conversations and other people sharing it, is that actually they're not alone, and you don't have to settle for the life that you're being given just because it's being given to you. It's time that you start to take accountability for you and start getting what's right for you and what you deserve.
Yeah. So I have a number of things to just say. You got me teary-eyed here. But what do you think has changed about you? I mean, when you get emails like the one you got, you just described, and you look at different points in your life where you heard those comments and you felt those things. What did they do to you? Because I hear you saying you've been hiding. And so I'm interested to know, what are the aspects of yourself that have not shown up as a result of that? For example, did you want to dance and you couldn't, or you just sat it out? Did you want to date and you couldn't because you had? What are some of the things? I think we have to get into this for people to understand how the consequences of what we say and do actually impacts real people on the receiving end of these comments.
And that's what I love, and that's why I wanted to come to you, because I do want to be super raw. I do want to be unapologetically me.
Yeah.
So I want to share something with you that I've never shared before outside of my close circles, but I feel like it is bringing. Okay, let me start again. I really wanted to not have the weight conversation yet, and actually you're the only person I accepted to talk about weight being the conversation, rather than what's happened with my post, what's the responses. This conversation is very much about weight, and I didn't want to have this conversation early on because I didn't want to start talking about this without having something positive and something good to contribute to the table, rather than just saying, this is my experience, I have no other opinion on the matter. But anyways, I haven't always been this size and I'm learning now to not excuse or have to explain myself. But I do want to with you, AB. I haven't always been this size. I come from a very petite family. As I mentioned before, weight was a very big thing growing up. It was a very big thing, and I love my mom very much, but I think she took a lot of her upbringing and put it on us, and so she put a lot of fixation on the weight conversation. Whereas my dad was just very much, you're happy, you're healthy, whatever. which was great. So we had very different, but I was always a mummy's girl. So listen to my mum. Sorry. I've always struggled with weight. It's been a difficult thing for me because I have always surrounded myself with very, very different people. That has a lot to do with cultural identities, and you're not a therapist, but I would love to have the same conversation, but about cultural identity issues, because
Yes.
I am good for that. I'm very confused as to what I am. But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways,
We can have it all.
yeah, I found myself in a very abusive relationship, basically, and I didn't know any better. It was not my first, and it hopefully is my last. But I was in a long-term relationship with a very abusive person who fixated a lot on weight. At the time, he was very much a bodybuilder, and so it was all about his image. And so, as I mentioned, size doesn't translate, but in the UK, an average woman is size 12. That is just standard, but I'm sure it's very different everywhere else. I
Yeah.
was a size 8 or a size 10 when I met him, and at the end of our relationship, I was a size 4, size 6. So I dramatically changed in weight very, very
Wow.
quickly. A lot of things related to that. It was the people I was surrounding myself with, and also this very much toxic relationship with food and very toxic relationship with weight. So my ex would stand me in front of a mirror naked and tell me to tell myself how fat I was, or to point out areas where I had too much fat.
As a
Um,
size 4?
as a size 4, yes. So eventually I went to size 4. I remember two occasions, but one very particular, where we went into a restaurant and he let me order chicken broth. And the waitress gave us a really weird look, and he turned around and had said, well, nobody wants to watch your fat pig eat. And again, I was very petite back then. I'm a lot bigger now, but it was
Wow.
certain behaviors like that that I learned over the years was okay and acceptable to acknowledge. Now, and this is just one
Wow.
example, is basically my partner now, who is honestly the love of my life. The first thing he said to me on our first date, which was probably my first date ever, because weight held me back in terms of when I was skinny, when I was fat, it doesn't matter. Weight was such an issue for me when it came to dating, because whatever
Yeah.
man or woman I had met, it was always I was too big or too small. So my partner said to me on our first date, Jessie, order whatever you want. And literally, I tell you now, my face lit up and I was like, what do you mean I can order whatever I want? I never knew a moment where I could order whatever I wanted, and it didn't have to be dictated by what someone else was telling me I had to have.
Yeah.
But yes.
The idea that somebody else would have so much authority over your body as to tell you what to eat or not to eat just really blows my mind. And I go back to just basic principles, right? Things we learned in kindergarten, things we learned before we went to school, courtesy, politeness, just respect for other people. Where have these things gone, right?
Mhm.
The idea that somebody thinks it's okay to sit at a keyboard and send you an email that calls you a name like the one you described, it blows my mind. What happened to civility? This is not just a
Mhm.
question of discrimination or non-discrimination. It's a question of respect and
Mhm.
kindness and compassion and courtesy, right? Sometimes I think we make these things sound bigger and more grandiose than they really should be. It's about basic principles,
Mhm.
respect, right? And kindness and compassion. But let me go back to what this show is really about, which is defining moments. The night before you sent that post,
Mhm.
what was going through your mind? Was it something that you felt you had to say, or did it just come out? What was the trigger for that?
Um, I think when people ask me this question, they assume that there's this amazing story behind it, but there really wasn't. It wasn't as thought of and calculated as it might have seemed, and I do think that if I had crafted and curated this perfect post, it really wouldn't have had the same effect that it did. Because the truth is, my post was very much raw and open and unedited. It was
Yeah.
how I typed it down. I have this thing where because I was raised to believe I was a bad person, and my weight is how I am as a person. Like, all of a sudden I'm fat, therefore I'm a bad person. I have this belief in my head that if I do something bad to offend somebody, I must punish myself worse. And it's this learned behavior I've had for years because of treatment, I guess, that I've had. And so what happened really the day I posted this was that I had met and made a new friend with someone on LinkedIn. And I had embarrassed them, how I perceived that I had embarrassed them in a conversation. And despite that, they said to me, I mean, how do I? Basically, I had made a silly joke. I would just say it, and then it's up to you if you share it or not. Basically, I had met somebody called Dom, and he had recently gone viral on LinkedIn because of a post he had done. And in his caption, he had said, "Look, Mom, I'm famous." And I know my relationship with my parents, and they would be the first people I would call anytime. And I mean, after this conversation, I'm calling my dad and telling him I've had the most amazing interview ever. But anyway, so in my comment, I had said to him, "Dom, what did Mum say? Did she print out your picture and put it on the fridge? Like how it would be as a little kid, I think." And
Yeah.
he had responded saying that his mum had passed away. And in that moment, I was like, what have I done? Have I upset somebody? And in my heart, because honestly, my heart is so pure, and I just want other people to feel the love that I feel. In that moment, I was convinced I had humiliated him. And so despite we're friends now, we're very good friends, we talk every day. I remind him that he's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
But I had in my head said, look, I've put him in a vulnerable situation. How do I then equal ourselves? Because my whole life I had
Oh,
felt I've felt my whole life that I've always had something to prove. I'm always having to hustle harder, and I'm tired of it. And all my life, all I've been trying to do is make everybody as equal as
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, and I didn't even talk to him, I just thought to myself, how do I now put myself at an equal level to him so that he understands that I'm genuinely sorry for hurting his feelings? And I didn't even tell him, he was the one who realized it himself. But that's why I posted what I posted. And when I posted that, and 2 hours into it, I had 10 likes. I called my partner and I said, look, I have 10 likes. I'm doing amazing. When I woke up the next day, I was on 150,000 likes. And
150,000.
I just thought, never in my wildest dreams did I think that making myself so vulnerable and putting out one of my biggest fears would turn out to be one of the most amazing things that's ever happened in my life.
And now I think, I don't know how many likes there are now, but what I usually look at too is comments. We're
Mm-hmm.
over 30,000 comments, which means
Mm-hmm.
people are not just liking, they're actually engaging with it, and they're having a conversation about it. And that's what I thought was really amazing, because on LinkedIn, people come there to talk about, work, their business, and in light of everything that's been happening in the world with coronavirus on the one hand and the George Floyd killing on the other hand, a lot of the
Yes.
conversations have been around those things, right? So it often tends to be very focused on, work stuff. And what
Mm-hmm.
I love about what you did is your post made this a work thing, right?
Yeah.
It made it a work thing, because we could be going around acting like this doesn't matter, and in the workplace we don't see body, but we do. One of the things I found really interesting was an article I saw, I don't know if it was in the New York Times or the New Yorker, one of the New York somethings, a few years ago, which was talking about how there are different forms of bias, right? And beautiful people, however that's defined, more attractive people tend to have a higher chance to get a job or a promotion or a pay raise than people who are considered less attractive, right? So the idea of physical appearance in the workplace actually has some bearing that impacts the terms and conditions of people's employment. Therefore, this conversation belongs in the workplace as much as any other conversation does, right? And so for me, that's what your post did. It took it away from a social issue or a family issue or a personal issue and brought it into the workplace where it should be, because these things are real in the workplace.
Yeah. I don't know if this is steps going off into a different direction, and I hope I'm not taking too much of your time, but you hit it nail on the head there. You're absolutely right. These conversations do happen, but they happen so secretly. I need to admit, because I'm all about learning, and it's okay to have mistakes in your background as long as you own it and you say, look, I've learned. But I never knew discrimination was a thing. I never really knew about racism that much, because I grew up, despite being the only Asian person in my whole neighborhood, my whole primary school, in fact, growing up, and even college, I think the only other ethnic minority was a mixed race, mixed black and white two brothers that were black and white, and they were the only other ethnic minority in my neighborhood. And so whilst I didn't grow up believing I was white and everything is only white, I didn't grow up with, thankfully, that much against me. And I did grow up slim, and I did look after myself in the sense of do my hair, do my makeup, whatever it is. I looked very presentable, and I never experienced discrimination in that sense. Why? Because I fit into a certain mold at the time. But the moment that I started to lead away from that, that's when I started to see things like senior levels. And I don't want to turn this into a race thing, because I know right now this conversation is about body, but it astounds me that it's so obvious how much discrimination is happening, and yet we're really not talking about it that much. I sent a message to one of my colleagues who was probably my first Black colleague in my life. And I messaged her recently because I said to her, she's always been an amazing friend to me. I call her my mum. She really has supported me a lot. But I apologized to her because I said to her, I didn't realize that your lack of success was because of your color. In my head, I always thought it was because people are threatened by how powerful you are, because she is a force to reckon with. She's very intelligent, very hardworking. And I just thought, I never thought to bring color into the conversation, because in my head, I thought you are just as good as everybody else. But I guess the only thing that made you different was that you were a lot stronger in your personality, and that was a threat. And she turned around and she was like, no, it was absolutely my color. But people aren't willing to accept that that is the reasons behind things until they recognize that discrimination is happening.
Yeah. And that's interesting, because we have these intersectionalities that happen, right? Race and gender, or body and gender, or whatever. And what I'm so tickled about with this conversation is that we're able to, first of all, just talk about it, right? And the number of people who engage the conversation, I hope you get a sense that it is a reflection of the fact that there's resonance in what you shared, and that you should keep talking about these things, because it was a very simple post. It wasn't a rant, it wasn't a dissertation. But that's the thing that gets people, right? Is when somebody comes out and they speak their truth. And then it wasn't just a post. You actually then posted your picture, right? So then it made sense. It wasn't just you saying, well, I couldn't post my picture for all this time because blah, blah, blah. You were saying, I just did something I haven't done before. So for me, that was courage, and that was brave. And there are going to be a lot of people who watch this and say, okay, well, if she's overweight, shouldn't she be losing weight? What about her health? Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you've heard those comments. How do you
Yeah.
react? How do you react to them, especially those which are
Mhm.
well-meaning and saying,
Yes.
"What about your health?"
hmm It's funny you say that because I was actually going to bring up comments as well. And I have had a lot of that. I've had a lot of people, well-meaning or not, offering me weight loss advice, all the medication and exercise and everything that I can do. And again, like I say, it's a very personal thing. I don't want the message to ever be you have to lose weight to be successful, or you have to lose weight to be happy in yourself. I'm starting to learn a lot more about healthy in any weight situation, and I'm
Yeah.
reading more about it, learning more, and it is true. You can be healthy at any weight. I want people to allow me enough respect to understand that I've made this journey really public, I guess. So I've asked for that, but the decisions that I make on how I go about moving forwards is my choice.
Yes.
And I do plan to share it. Like you said about the dancing thing very early on, I clocked on that and I was like, has she been reading my diary? Because that is something that I love dancing. I'm so bad at dancing, but up until I gained a lot of weight, I never let my weight stop, or my lack of ability of dancing ever really stop
Mhm.
me. And so I do plan to come up with a series called Yes You Can, where I want to challenge people who have been told they can't do things, and actually together we will do it. And my
I
first
love
video will
that.
be my first video will be of me dancing. I just haven't found a choreographer yet to help me.
Who
Um,
needs one? Who needs one? Everybody,
I don't know.
everybody's got moves. Everybody's got rhythm. Just turn on
The
some
thing
music and dance. You know?
the thing is, and like I said, I mentioned about the whale comment yesterday because I didn't realize how strong I was until this whole thing happened. And like I said, with a lot of amazing positivity has come some negativity. And first of all, it's a bit of a cop out answer, but I'm really fortunate that I have amazing people in my comment section, because I rarely see the bad comments. I see people standing up for me, and then I have to really dig to find the bad comments. I know
Mm.
there's a lot there though, because I do read every comment, so I do know that they're there, but I'm trying not to fixate on the ones where people are saying you can't do this or you're nothing and all this. I'm trying to fixate on the positive messages people are leaving. And like I said to you, this journey is very personal, and I will share whatever I can to empower other people. But the message should never be you must change to fit anything.
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah.
start questioning it, start questioning things, and don't take everything you're given at face value, because it it doesn't always mean it's the best thing you can get.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this has been just a joy for me. One of the
Mm,
things that I'm always aspiring to do, or I'm always doing, is looking for ways to inspire people to find their truth and then to engage it and to transform their lives however they see fit. So I know there are going to
mhm,
be a lot of people who've experienced something similar to you who watch this and say, thank God someone said something, and feel inspired, whether it's to just be themselves. Because, we always think about inspiration as inspiration to
mhm,
do something, but
mhm.
it's also inspiration to actually step into your skin and own
Yes,
it,
yes,
right? And
yes.
really be like, I mean, this body, I like this body. It's a good body. It's fine. And just own it. And as women, we are hard on ourselves. Society is even harder on us. And so
Mhm,
it's always good to just meet people like you who say, you know what? Today's the day where I get to, I'm just going to say it and let the chips fall where they may. And,
yes.
I'm inspired. I thank you for joining me. And
Thank you.
Jessie, if you have anything that you want to leave my audience with, the floor is yours.
I just want to say again, not so many words, but thank you so much for having me and giving me the space to talk to you. I'm really inspired right now. My biggest thing that I want to leave with everybody really is that today I give you permission to love yourself in a way that you've never been loved before. And I hope that whilst I'm here to remind you of this right now, in time you will learn to just have it naturally come to you. And that's self-love. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I love that. I love that. I will connect you with Dr. Yembe because I think you guys will have an amazing conversation, first of all. And again, as I go through these defining moments, I hope that this leads to bigger and better things. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do with it. And I appreciate the fact that you've kept the conversation going on LinkedIn. So thanks again, Jessie, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, AB. Good luck. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Next week, Dan Mofo, founder, CEO, and creative director of Don Murphy, joins me to talk about his 3 secrets for success and his defining moment. This is a sneak preview.
And when it comes to Don Murphy, the confidence really, really helped me. Really, really helped me because fashion is so competitive. It's so,
Yes.
and the thing that's gonna like separate you from all the other fashion designers, apart from the knowledge or whatever, is the confidence. Once you have that confidence, even if you are in a room of like the top of the top, you still know that you are the
You
dog.
got it.
Got it. Yes.
But what I learned from her in that moment was you count your blessings. And she and I had a conversation around nobody owes you anything. As an entrepreneur, nobody owes you anything, right? In the beginning. So the fact that, Maurice Chestnut was like, I want to wear that guy's suit, it's a confidence booster, but it's also like affirmation, right? It's one of those things that you look back on and you say, I will never forget this because it was that one person who saw me before I, popped up and said, I want his stuff or I like her stuff. But it's a constant reminder that that first person, that first believer is really, really important from a confidence perspective. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So I have to ask, have you worked with Maurice Chestnut again?
Yes. 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 Second chance and everything was wonderful. through the
Good.
same stylist.